The final night of the Democratic National Convention now over, and we've got about 70 some odd days before the November election. Early voting begins September 26th here in Illinois. And interesting to see just how prominent of a role Illinois played in this entire process, especially for Democrats. Welcome in. It is Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop on the road in Chicago. We'll be back to normal settings next week. But obviously a lot to unpack after the last 4 days here, especially after last night's with Vice President Kamala Harris accepting that nomination for the Democratic Party's presidency. So let's get into it because Illinois did play a pretty prominent role last night, and including several speakers taking the stage from the former Illinois Attorney General, a former Republican congressman, and a current Democratic congressman. Here is Raja Krishnamurthy from last night talking about the difference between what he says would be a Harris administration strong against China versus a Trump administration that is, he says, weak against China.
And mark my words, they want to see Donald Trump across the bargaining table, because he'll start endless trade wars that raise prices for Americans, because he'll cut programs that train workers in America. But most of all, Trump will pit American against American. And that's what China wants, for us to fight amongst ourselves, because that's how we lose. But we're not going back.
And that's really a catchphrase there that I think the Democratic Party is leaning into more and more. We are not going back. And that was chanted throughout the convention, all throughout this week. Of course, here with Illinois in Focus Daily, we've been looking at not just what's going on the convention stage, but also some of the conversations in the background. And we'll touch on a lot of that, but more from last night's stage presentations. We saw the list of speakers, and of course, Raja Krishnamurthy was on there. And then we also saw that Illinois Attorney General, former Illinois Attorney General Lisa Madigan, coming back to the political stage. Now, Lisa Madigan hasn't been in office since 2019. She is the daughter of former Illinois House Speaker Mike Madigan. And if you remember, back in 2019, she announced that she was not going to seek re-election, kind of a surprise at that time. But then months later, you had the ComEd 4 investigation and the Madigan Enterprise that the federal prosecutors revealed in 2020, and then the subsequent charges against her father, and those charges coming to fruition with a trial set for October, just before the November election. So it was interesting to see Lisa Madigan, again, the former Illinois Attorney General, on the stage last night, where she talked about Kamala Harris's role as the California Attorney General during the housing crisis.
She demanded big banks provide mortgage relief to allow families to stay in their homes. She stood her ground, and together, we prevailed. For as long as I have known her, Kamala Harris has always taken principled positions and never wavered. Thanks to Kamala's determination, countless Americans have a home they can call their own.
But Lisa Madigan, again, not the only Illinois voice. Somebody else who is rather prominent in the lineup for the final evening of the Democratic National Convention in Chicago was former Republican U.S. Congressman from Illinois, Adam Kinzinger. And he addressed the crowd, getting a lot of applause from Democrats. And he talked about how he essentially says the Republican Party is no longer conservative. And then he took time to blast Donald Trump.
Donald Trump is a weak man pretending to be strong. He is a small man pretending to be big. He's a faithless man pretending to be righteous. He's a perpetrator who can't stop playing the victim.
A lot of people either happy about the speech, others may call it projection. But clearly that was a pretty prominent role on the stage last night with Adam Kinzinger, who has, he was drawn out of his district, by the way, by Illinois Democrats. That's why he's no longer a congressman. But he was also on the January 6th committee selected by Nancy Pelosi, the former Speaker of the U.S. House, to investigate what happened on January 6th. So an interesting role that Adam Kinzinger has, I guess, grown into as a staunch critic of Donald Trump and Republicans, even though he claims that he is a Republican. Regardless, Illinois' role in the Democratic National Convention, pretty clear here, not just having been the host city for the DNC, but also the politics. And that's something when I sat down with State Representative Bob Morgan yesterday, and these are all things that you can see at America's Talking Network on YouTube. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell and dig deeper into these interviews. But I chatted with State Representative Bob Morgan at the convention hall yesterday and touched on the prominence of Illinois in the national political conversation.
Illinois is one of the most diverse states in the country, and by that, it's people from all walks of life, people who really have different experiences, different types of jobs, really significant union presence, but also just really, really large urban corporate centers, and then rural parts of the state. And so really, what I love about Chicago and the rest of the state of Illinois being showcased is we can offer something for every single state in the country. When they're thinking about who they're going to vote for, Illinois and Chicago is really going to help showcase some of the issues the Democratic Party is fighting for, even if they're not in Illinois elected.
Now, a lot of Republicans in Illinois will be quick to point out that Illinois has got a whole host of problems, from outbound migration, second highest taxes in the nation when it comes to gas taxes and property taxes, high excise taxes in a city like Chicago. Trust me, I mean, you come up here and you see the price of gas versus what it is in central Illinois versus what it is down in Missouri or Kentucky. It's vastly different. So we'll see how that conversation plays out over the next 75 days as we get closer to the November 5th general election. Early voting starts September 26th. So a lot more to say about all of this, especially Illinois' role in it. It is Illinois in Focus Daily. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. I'm Greg Bishop. Follow me anywhere. Just search Bishop on Air.